Okay, good afternoon. It is 1:02 p.m. on Saturday, March 20th, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our Saturday Western Liberty Network training. I am Richard Burke. I'm the Executive Director of Western Liberty Network. These training sessions are held every Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific time and can always be reached through the links and passcode information provided on the www.westernlibertynetwork.org website. Western Liberty Network is an organization consisting of myself, a board of directors, an advisory committee, and numerous volunteer trainers. WLN's purpose is to help activists reweave the fabric of our political culture by empowering them to take control over their own governance where they live. We do this by building a farm team of trained local nonpartisan office holders, citizen advocates, and campaign volunteers. WLN trains activists who then use their training for the campaigns and causes they care about. If you would like to support Western Liberty Network, simply go to www.westernlibertynetwork.org and go to the support tab. All contributions are tax deductible to Western Liberty Network. I'm going to very quickly show you our website. This is a shared screen, and if you scroll at the top, this is our website, and this is how you log on. I think all of you have mastered that. If you want to, you can download the companion training document that goes along with today's training by clicking here on the westernlibertynetwork.org website. And if you want to go back and look at previous trainings, you can go to the training tab on our westernlibertynetwork.org website. And these are all the companion documents that we provide. And these are some of the training sessions that we've recorded. This one will be among them. And if you wish to support Western Liberty Network, you go to the Support WLN tab, and you can become a one-time contributor or a monthly contributor. We're encouraging people to do monthly contributions, and that helps us develop the money that we need to travel around the state and provide live trainings now that COVID is starting to open up. And so we've got a couple of more people that have joined us.
There.
Carolyn, welcome, and Janet has joined us. And of course, we have a representative from the Lynn County Republican Party. A couple of things before we start. Western Liberty Network is a 501c3 educational organization. As such, WLN does not endorse or oppose any political party.
Come in. He's talking.
Yep, even the ones we train, ballot measure, or legislation. The statements and other forms of information provided by the presenters that we have and the participants are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Western Liberty Network. On conference etiquette, we ask that you mute yourself unless you want to speak. We like people to participate, so if you want to participate, unmute yourself, and then when you're done speaking, remute yourself. This maximizes the audio quality of the presentation and reduces such things as audio feedback. So I'm the trainer today, and I'm going to be doing a training on the components of a campaign plan. Again, if you would like a copy of this document, you can go to the westernlibertynetwork.org website, and you can download that. I'll also, before the end of this presentation, upload this document on the chat window that you have. So we'll go with that. So I'm assuming that everyone here is here because they want to know about how to draft a good campaign plan. Some of you I know are running for local nonpartisan office in the May 18th election. The filing deadline was on the 18th. And I know that others of you are planning to either run in the future or are wanting to help people who are running. And one of the best things you can do is to have a written campaign plan. Generally speaking, if you don't have a written campaign plan, you don't have a campaign plan. It's important that you have a written plan. Just like if you were starting a business, you would have a business plan. And that's very important, even if you're running unopposed. If you are running opposed, which most of you are, having a written campaign plan will help you to organize your efforts, make the best use of your efforts, make the best use of the efforts that your volunteers provide. And if you're looking for campaign donations to help you in your campaign, having a written campaign plan is going to impress potential donors, and it's going to give them the idea that you're organized and you have a plan worth investing in. If you were starting a business and went to a bank without a business plan, you can understand why they would be reluctant to provide a business loan. If you have a good business plan, they're more likely to provide you with a business loan. The same is true with a campaign plan with respect to potential donors. So even if you are running unopposed, I encourage you to develop a written campaign plan. And this training is going to go over some of the elements of that campaign plan. Also, by the end of this by the end of this training session, I will upload to you an example of a campaign plan that I did for a statewide candidate in the year 2014. It's more elaborate than many of you would probably use, but you'll get the idea of some of the elements that are in the campaign plan. Are there any questions before I start?
Richard, is this a 1 hour training or 2 or 3?
It's an hour or less.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, so this training is on the components of a written campaign plan, a good campaign plan. And the first one is campaign objectives. Any campaign plan should have a set of objectives. Now, you've got several kinds of objectives. You've got a primary objective, and generally speaking, your primary objective is obvious. It's to win the election. That's your goal. That's what you're trying to do. But some of you may be running in campaigns that are very, very difficult to win. You may be dipping your toe into the water for the first time, and you may think it's hard for you to win. You might be surprised, but in case that's true, there are secondary objectives. When you run a campaign, there's more than just winning a campaign. You can develop a network of media contacts. You can develop a network of donors. You can develop a network of volunteers. You can develop a network of people, activists who are willing to help you in a variety of ways. This is very important because even if you lose your campaign, your secondary objectives are things that will survive your campaign and things that you can use in the future if you decide to get involved in a ballot measure race, or if you decide to help people in a larger partisan race, or if you decide to run for office again yourself. If you develop these networks through secondary objectives, you will have something to work with. The important thing about objectives is that you quantify them. If one of your secondary objectives is to develop media contacts, give yourself a number, 25 media contacts. That's 25 names, email addresses, phone numbers that you can call to provide the media with various information. 25 volunteers. If you get 25 volunteers for a local nonpartisan race, you're generally doing very, very well. And these are people who you have their phone numbers, you have their addresses, you've got their email addresses, and these are people who are willing to help you, win elections and accomplish other political objectives. If you are looking for donors, try to get 25 or 50 donors who will give you anything, $5, $100, $1,000, whatever they can afford. If you get somebody to donate once, they're more likely to donate another time. You can say, look, I ran for school board and I know it was an uphill battle, but I'm building an organization, I'm building a network of people who will change politics in our district. Will you help us? So if you have a set of written objectives, media contacts, volunteer contacts, donor contacts, those kind of things, and you have quantifiable goals, you've got some goals that will have value whether or not you actually win the election, which of course is your primary goal. Are there any questions at this point?
I had
Yeah.
a question. It's a different topic. Do you mind if you give me permission to record this as well? I know you said you record these and you put them out them eventually.
Yes.
I'm working with a group of few people here in Multnomah County, and I was hoping to get it out to them sooner. But if you think you'll get it out to within like maybe a week or so, then I'll just.
Oh yeah, a couple of days I'll have it posted as a YouTube video, you can go on the training tab of the westernlibertynetwork.org website, click on it, and from there are a lot of tools you can download the training, and feel free to distribute it. Nothing we do is copyrighted or anything like that. So feel free to distribute it. We're about getting the information out and not putting up barriers to people. So absolutely. Any other questions? Okay, great. Now the next component of a written campaign plan is a district overview, an analysis of that overview, and the development of a basic campaign strategy. For example, if you're running for a school board position or a water board position, take a look at your district. Do an overview of it. How many people are there? How many votes typically are won by the person who is elected to a race? A lot of local nonpartisan elections have undervotes. People will vote for ballot measures and tax measures and things like that, but a lower percentage of them will actually vote for local nonpartisan positions. When I ran for Tualatin Valley Water District Board of Commissioners, it was very typical for the people who voted, you would have a 17 to 21% turnout. And of those people, only a fraction of them would vote for those positions. A lot of them vote for things that they care about, ballot measure races, and only a fraction of those people vote for local nonpartisan races, oftentimes because they don't know anybody. But take a look at who won the race that you are running for the last time it was run. How many votes did it take? And take a look at your district. How many of them are Republicans? How many of them are Democrats? How many of them are non-affiliated? Your county election office will have that information for you. If you go to the westernlibertynetwork.org website and scroll down, you will see that there's a story about running for local office, and there's an Oregon flag at right and a Washington flag at right. If you click on the appropriate flag, you will get links to county election offices. You can click on the county of your choice and you can call them with the contact information, and you can ask them for information about your district. How many people are in my district? How many people voted for the last winning candidate for the race I'm running for? How many people in my district are Republican? How many are Democrat? How many are non-affiliated? This will help you develop a campaign strategy. If you're running for water board, for example, and most of your district are Republicans, you can offer a campaign platform of fiscal responsibility. We want to provide you with the best water for the lowest possible price. We think we need to be efficient. If most of the people are Democrats, you can provide a campaign strategy of saying things like, we want everyone to have available, affordable water. There are a lot of ways you can craft your campaign message based on the attributes of your district, and you have a chance to do that. If you have if you have filed for election, or you know somebody who has filed for election, you have until 5 o'clock on the 22nd to file a voter pamphlet statement with a photo of the candidate and a 325-word statement. And based on the answers you get from your election office, you can craft your statement to appeal to the most people and develop a campaign strategy around that, whether it's knocking on doors or doing a letter to the editor campaign or a lot of those things. If you take a look at the training tab on the westernlibertynetwork.org website, you can find a training document on how to campaign with little or no money. And you can employ those tactics to get your word out and make people aware of your candidacy. And that can be a part of your basic campaign strategy. So that is the second part of what is in a good campaign plan. The next one, are there any questions at this point or comments?
Excuse me, Richard, I think Dimitri was before me, but does this apply for PCOs as well, that they get that 325 word statement?
Well, different counties have different allowances of what they will provide voter pamphlet statements for. And if you're running for PCP, you may or may not be able to file a voter pamphlet statement. But if you are running for PCP, whether or not you're able to file a voter pamphlet statement, these things are very good. You know, you want to take a look. If you're running for a Republican PCP position, you want to know who is in your precinct that's able to vote for you. Try to find out as much about them as you can, and develop a message that resonates with those people. If you're a PCP, candidate, you're going to want to talk about wanting to promote Republican values in your district, how you will organize, you'll knock on doors, you'll make phone calls, you do whatever you can to mobilize your precinct in support of Republican candidates. And if you're a Democrat, you do the same thing for Democrats. Or if you're a Libertarian, you do the same thing for Libertarians. I don't know if that answers your question, Andrea. Andrea?
Yeah, sorry, it took me a moment to find the unmute.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Dimitri, did you have a question? Did you have another question?
No, that was just, I forgot to lower my hand from before.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, very good. The next one is you'll want to include in your written campaign plan approaches toward achieving objectives. Now, what this really means is a fancy way of saying tactics. What are you going to do? One of the things you can do is you can knock on doors. You can leave door hangers. You can do all those things. These are approaches. You might want to contact your local newspaper, even a community newspaper, and let them know that you're a candidate and ask if they're going to be doing editorial board interviews or if they're going to be doing stories on candidates for various offices, and make yourself accessible to them. If you go to Western Liberty Network and download the training document on campaigning with little or no money, you'll get a lot of ideas on various approaches you can take toward achieving objectives. Another one you can do that isn't there is to ask various service clubs to let you speak for a minute or two at their meetings, Kiwanis, Optimists, those kind of things. These organizations are great. If you can get in front of these groups, they tend to be opinion leaders, and you know, in their community, they know a lot of people, they're well contacted, and if you can get in front of them, they generally will have a good opinion of you and they'll spread good words around you. If you want to talk to elderly people, go to retirement homes. A lot of them have social directors whose job it is to provide them with things to do. You can tell them, I'm a candidate for office and I'd like to meet the people who live, you know, in your assisted living care facility. These are people who, you know, can't get around a lot. They have limited social interaction, and but they do vote in high percentages. And if you go there and shake their hand and say hello to them, you know, they'll love you. Typically, that's how it works. But the point is, after you have set some campaign objectives for yourself, and Debbie O'Brien Verdon is joining us. Hello, Debbie. Thank you for joining us. If you can do that, if you can come up with some good primary and secondary campaign objectives, and you can take a look at your district, analyze it, and come up with a basic campaign strategy, and then come up with some approaches toward achieving your campaign objectives, you're going to do very well. And it doesn't matter what kind of a campaign you're running. If you're doing those basic things, you're hitting most of the basics. Another one is campaign organization. I encourage everyone, even if you're running unopposed, to build a campaign organization. That can consist of somebody like a social media person, and that's another tactic you can use, or an approach toward achieving objective, is to have a social media campaign, a Facebook page for your candidacy, a web page for your candidacy. These things don't cost very much money, and they're able to come together, but you can build a campaign organization, a campaign manager, and maybe a social media person, somebody who can be your treasurer to do your campaign finance reporting if you're going to be spending more than $3,500. These kind of things. it's good to have a campaign organization. Even if you're running as an unopposed candidate, this will give you and the people who are in your campaign organization experience in running a campaign. And if you're running unopposed, that experience is great because you can stumble over each other, you can make mistakes and do a lot of learning, and there's really no penalty because if you're running unopposed, you're going to win and you'll still get the benefit of that experience to use in the future if you want to deploy people to run for a higher office later, or if you want them to work for a ballot measure. But if you're running an opposed candidacy, then you definitely want some help. And I really encourage people to have a campaign manager. A campaign manager is somebody who will make sure that you have speaking engagements. They'll contact the newspaper. They'll have material ready in case you're speaking in front of a group to hand out to people. They will oversee anyone who is doing social media for you. It's good to have a campaign manager. They often say that a lawyer who has himself as a client is a fool. That is often true for candidates who are running their own campaigns. Candidates cannot be objective and they do need help. Candidates should be doing three things. Candidates should be knowing about the issues, interacting with voters, and raising money for their campaign. Everything else, ideally, should be done by a campaign manager or by somebody who's helping that campaign. The second person I really recommend for a local nonpartisan race is a social media person, somebody who will keep the posts on Instagram, Facebook, website, all of these things current, and will make sure that they're doing outreach and boosting and all of that kind of thing. It's very important to have a campaign organization. You can get very elaborate with campaign organization if you have resources, but most of the people who are running for local nonpartisan office will have people help them who are volunteers or who are paid very little. Another person who is really good to have is a treasurer. A treasurer is somebody who will watch the money and do all of the campaign finance reporting if you need to do it. You can spend $3,500 or less and file what's called a PC7 form. It's a one-page form with the Secretary of State, and you're exempt from providing campaign finance information and for reporting campaign finance information. PC7 is that form, and that's great. And for a lot of races, $3,500 or less is enough to run a decent campaign. But if you're going to spend more than $3,500, you should have a separate person who is your treasurer who will be responsible for campaign finance reporting. The biggest reason is that if you make mistakes, you can be fined. And if you, the candidate, are also the treasurer and the person who is doing the campaign finance reporting, it can make you look bad. Because if you make a mistake and you end up getting fined, your opponent can say, oh, look at this person. They can't even control their campaign finance. Why would you elect them to office? They'll just botch up our finances too, right? You don't want to be in that position. So you want to have a treasurer who will insulate you from that. So basically, they'll take the heat. They're the ones responsible for doing the campaign. I mean, the candidate's ultimately responsible. But if you can put a layer in between the candidate and any mistakes that might be made, which are generally honest mistakes and not, some scandalous scheme to steal money, it helps to protect the candidate and also the campaign. Andrea, I see your hand is up. Do you have another question?
I'm so sorry. That was from before, I think.
No, that's okay. That's all right. That's okay. I'm new at this too. I'm still learning Zoom myself.
I'm busy typing away on another, I'm taking notes on another page, and I had to get back, and no, that was from a while ago. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. Don't worry about it. It's okay. And then what I would recommend as part of your campaign plan would be to have a calendar. You're going to have a calendar that works backwards. Most people do a campaign calendar, they'll set up a calendar on Google or even a paper calendar, and they will start from where they are today and they will go to plan things to the end. What is the best thing to do and what most successful campaigns do is they do it backwards. They will get a campaign calendar and they will start at the end, after the race, for things like thank you cards for people who have contributed, thank you cards for people who have done, lots of money, picking up campaign signs if you have campaign signs. And then you go to election day where you have the party, right? And then you go back and and with the various, Ginger Mugar has rejoined us. You go back with, all of the elements of a campaign that you would put on the calendar, the various speaking engagements you have, time you have set aside to knock on doors, time you have set aside to work on social media, all of these things. And you come up with a calendar with a rough chronology, and you build the calendar from beyond election day backwards to where you are. What we find is that when people set up a campaign calendar and they work from where they are forward to election day, what they end up doing is bunching a lot of stuff up at the end. And you don't want to do that. You want to plan it all evenly so you have a good campaign that's running all the time from the present to election day, and you've got things planned beyond election day backward. You know what's going to happen backward so that you can not panic and have a lot of stuff crunch you up at the end. You've got it planned. Any questions about that? Oh, okay. And then finally, a campaign budget. This is important. You're going to have a campaign plan. You got to fund it. Maybe you've got a campaign plan that you can fund for $100 that uses a lot of free social media and letters to the editor and things like that. You may not need a lot of money, but you'll need some, even if it's nothing more than the filing fee for a voter pamphlet statement, but you'll need some. If you decide to run and spend a little more, come up with a campaign budget. And it's important that you talk with your spouse if you have one, or a significant other, because if you're going to spend money on a campaign, you don't want it to distress the household, and you certainly don't want it to cause problems within your family. But what you want to do as part of a written campaign plan is to have a campaign budget. And then finally, fundraising. You want to figure out how you're going to raise that money. And I will tell you that nobody is able to raise money like a candidate can raise money. If a candidate calls up, we do a whole training on fundraising, and Mike Neerman, state representative, has done a lot of training on fundraising. And a lot of people have trouble with fundraising. And I encourage them to take an attitude that is a little bit different. Conservatives have this feeling where they don't like to ask for things because they need it. That's more of a liberal thing. Liberals think that need constitutes a claim on what somebody else has. Conservatives don't do that. Conservatives have much more of a, I want to exchange value for value. That's very much, if you've read Ayn Rand, they talk a lot about that, exchanging value for value. That's honorable. If you're going to sell a car, you're asking somebody for money, but you're offering a car in exchange. You're not embarrassed to do that because it's a value for value, right? And because conservatives have this desire to provide value for value, and they don't see need as a claim on what someone else has, they have trouble sometimes asking for money for campaigns. So what I advise people to do is to go to people who are prospective donors and say, hey, look, I know that you have a lot of the same opinions that I do. And I know that you're busy in your work and your family, and you don't have time to actually get involved in this, but I'm willing to get involved. And if you're willing to support my candidacy, I will promote the values you hold when I get elected to office. That's a value for value. You're essentially telling people who are willing to donate to your campaign that in exchange for their donations, you're going to work hard for the values they believe in. And you're going to do it for them because they're not the ones that are in the trenches getting their hands dirty. You're going to do that on your behalf and on their behalf. And so you are providing that is the value you are providing in exchange for whatever campaign contributions you decide to get from them. And if you look at it that way, you're not asking for something because you need it. A lefty will typically say, I need this donation to win this race, or whether it's healthcare or whatever it is, need constitutes a claim on what they have. And so they're perfectly comfortable going around asking people for money because they need it. Conservatives have a harder time with that because they like to provide value for value. But what you're doing by running for office is you are representing limited government values in the position that you are running for, or even if you're not a conservative, the people you're asking for money, you're going to say, I share most of your values. I'm going to be promoting them in the office that I'm running for, and that'll help to build, society and a government that you support. So if you're willing to help me win this office, I will do the work in the trenches that you support, that'll promote the values that you and I share. That's the value that you're providing. And if you're able to kind of make that adjustment in your mind, your attitude about asking for money, it becomes a lot easier because you're not asking people for money, you're offering them an opportunity. You're offering them an opportunity to, in exchange for a few dollars, to allow you to do their politics for them, basically. That is a big adjustment that a lot of people have to make in their minds. But once you get there, it's easier to ask for money. Like if you're selling that car, if you say, I have this car, I need $2,500 for it. Are you willing to pay for this car? And I'll give you the car. And they say, no, I really don't want the car. Well, it's okay. Nobody's embarrassed. Nobody's humiliated, right? Likewise, if you're running for office and you say to someone, hey, I'm running for office, I need some campaign contributions to get the word out. And if you contribute, I'll be doing the politics that you care about. You haven't humiliated yourself. They might say, no, I don't really want to do that. And that's okay, but you haven't come begging to them. You're asking them for a value in exchange for another value. And they don't have to say yes, they don't have to say no, but in either case, everyone's dignity is preserved. But the point is, you need to have a fundraising plan. That fundraising plan can be, I will call my family, I will call my friends, I will put an email out to my political party list and ask for support, whatever that is. So if you have that in your campaign plan, you're doing very well. So to quickly summarize, I advise you to write a written campaign plan if you are running for office. It doesn't have to be complicated. I'm going to send one up to you right now. Let's see if I can figure this out. Okay, send a file. I'm going to work on that right now. Let's see what I've got. I've got let's see. Okay, let's see, send. Okay, here it comes. Okay, I'm sending up a file. This is a campaign plan I did for Sam Carpenter in 2014 in the primary election. It wasn't used, but it has all the elements that we discussed before. And I'm going to send another file in case you didn't get it on, let's see. I should have had this on my desktop to begin with here. Okay, here it is. Okay, and that is the companion training document that I've sent over the chat menu that you can download. So we've got an example of a campaign plan and also a campaign plan overview that relates to the training that I'm providing today. So if you have these components in your campaign plan, campaign objectives, primary and secondary, a district overview, analysis, and campaign strategy, approaches toward achieving your objectives, campaign organization, and in most local campaigns, it's going to consist of a campaign manager, a social media person, and maybe a treasurer, a calendar with a rough chronology starting from beyond the election to the present date, a campaign budget to help finance your plan, how many dollars you need to finance the plan that you've outlined, and then a fundraising plan to help fund your budget. If you have these things in, you have a good written campaign plan. And it's not going to guarantee that you're going to win, but you're going to have a lot more likelihood of winning if you have a campaign plan and you use these things than if you don't. And again, a campaign plan can be used to build confidence into the people that you're asking to volunteer their time. It can build confidence into the people that you're asking to financially support your campaign. Just having a campaign plan like a business plan is going to do a lot. Are there any questions? I have a message from Lynn County Republicans. Thank you. This was helpful. I'm glad to hear that it's held every Saturday. We'll pass this training along to our candidate assistance committee chair to share with our candidates. Within a week, this will be up on the Western Liberty Network website on the training page, and you'll be able to click on it and view it or download it as you wish. Are there other questions or comments?
I want to thank you, Richard, because it's been my experience that people kind of hold this information close to their chest and sort of look down at you if you can't muddle your way through it. So thank you for being so generous with this information and incredible organization.
Well, thank you very much. It's all about getting the organization out there. Again, nothing that we do is copyrighted, so you can distribute it as you wish. We want to get the information out there as much as possible. Is there anything else for folks? Okay, if not, I want to remind everyone that next Saturday, thank you, Corey, for the nice comment. Next Saturday, we'll be doing another live training. We'll probably have a guest trainer at that point. I'm talking with several people to try and line up trainings for the next month. And Western Liberty Network will also be doing live trainings. If you would like us to do a live training in front of the group that you run, let us know and we will come out. We're not worried about COVID, so we'll come out and do a live training, no problem. We'll try to put together a conference later in the summer, and anything that we can do to help, we'll do what we can. So unless anyone has anything else for the good of the order, we will call it a day.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, you bet.
Got Gabriel Wright over here. That's also listening. He's one of the other guys that I was referring to that could use your endorsement. So you'll see an email from him.
Okay, well, very good. That'll be great. That'll be a personal endorsement from me. Western Liberty Network does not endorse anyone, but that would be personal from me. So very good.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.